Today, I'd like to share 3 personal stories with you. That's all, just 3 simple tales. The first story is about linking the dots. I left Reed College after 6 months, but remained as a drop-in for about 18 more months before I fully departed. Why did I drop out? The story begins before my birth. My biological mother, a young, unmarried graduate student, chose to place me for adoption. She was adamant that I be adopted by college graduates, so arrangements were made for a lawyer and his wife to adopt me at birth. However, when I was born, they decided they preferred a girl. Consequently, my parents, who were on a waiting list, received a late-night call asking if they wanted an unexpected baby boy. They agreed without hesitation. Later, my biological mother discovered that my adoptive mother hadn't graduated from college and my adoptive father hadn't finished high school. She initially refused to sign the final adoption papers, but relented a few months later when my parents promised that I would attend college. 17 years later, I did enroll in college. Naively, I chose an institution nearly as costly as Stanford, depleting all of my working-class parents' savings on tuition. After 6 months, I couldn't see the value in it. I was uncertain about my life's direction and how college would help me discover it. I felt guilty spending my parents' life savings without a clear purpose, so I decided to drop out, trusting that things would work out. It was daunting at the time, but in hindsight, it was one of my best decisions. Dropping out allowed me to stop attending mandatory classes that didn't interest me and sit in on ones that intrigued me. Life wasn't easy during this period. I didn't have a dorm room, so I slept on friends' floors. I returned Coke bottles for 5-cent deposits to buy food and walked 7 miles across town every Sunday night to get a good meal at the Hare Krishna temple. I loved it. Following my curiosity and intuition led me to invaluable experiences. For instance, Reed College offered exceptional calligraphy instruction. Every poster and label on campus was beautifully hand-lettered. Since I had dropped out and wasn't bound by a regular schedule, I took a calligraphy class. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, varying space between letter combinations, and what makes great typography. It was beautiful, historical, artistically subtle, and I found it fascinating. None of this seemed practical at the time, but 10 years later, when designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. We designed the Mac with multiple typefaces and proportionally spaced fonts. If I hadn't taken that calligraphy course, the Mac might not have had this typography, and since Windows copied the Mac, it's likely no personal computer would have them. Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward in college, but it was clear looking back a decade later. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward. So, you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. Trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This approach has never let me down and has made all the difference in my life. My second story is about love and loss. I was fortunate to find what I loved to do early in life. Woz and I started Apple in my parents' garage when I was 20. We worked hard, and in 10 years, Apple grew from just the 2 of us into a $2 billion company with over 4,000 employees. We had just released our finest creation, the Macintosh, a year earlier, and I had just turned 30. Then I got fired. How can you get fired from a company you started? As Apple grew, we hired someone I thought was very talented to run the company with me. For the first year, things went well, but then our visions of the future diverged. and eventually we had a falling out. The board of directors sided with him, and at 30, I was out very publicly. What had been the focus of my entire adult life was gone, and it was devastating. For a few months, I didn't know what to do. I felt I had let the previous generation of entrepreneurs down, that I had dropped the baton as it was being passed to me. I met with David Packard and Bob Noyce to apologize for screwing up so badly. I was a very public failure and even thought about leaving the valley. But something slowly dawned on me. I still loved what I did. The turn of events at Apple hadn't changed that. I had been rejected, but I was still in love. So, I decided to start over. I didn't see it then, but getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. Over the next 5 years, I started a company named Next, another named Pixar, and fell in love with an amazing woman who would become my wife. Pixar went on to create the world's first computer-animated feature film, Toy Story, and is now the most successful animation studio in the world. In a remarkable turn of events, Apple bought Next. I returned to Apple, and the technology we developed at Next is at the heart of Apple's current renaissance. Lauren and I also have a wonderful family together. I'm pretty sure none of this would have happened if I hadn't been fired from Apple. It was